Well, hello there. Welcome to Cheap Comic Collector. This is episode number 114. And today we're doing a What Am I Reading episode. We're going to be going through these guys. And right off the bat, we've got Convergence, Justice League International. So I didn't like this one at first, but it kind of grew on me as I read through it. So we got Ron Mars is the writer, Mike Manley is the artist. And by now you know the storyline. They're trapped under the dome. Metallo's trying to take over Metropolis in this one. And Red Tornado still has some powers. And it reads kind of weird because they talk about him not having powers, but then he has powers. And they talk about how they managed to give him some of his powers, but then he gets his powers back. And it doesn't quite make sense. Not real clear. But anyway, you got Blue Beetle, Red Tornado, Martian Manhunter, Fire and Ice, and I don't remember ever being real clear who that guy was. Might be, I guess it's Captain Atom. That's Captain Atom. And just was not made completely clear that that's who that was. But surprisingly, Blue Beetle is the leader of the team, since DC was plays him mostly as a joke most of the time. It was kind of nice to see him stepping up and being the leader of the team. So they're still trying to protect Metropolis. Of course, Blue Beetle never had powers. He always relies on his knowledge and scientific gimmicks. And so they're protecting Metropolis from Metallo and his army of robots. And the citizens aren't very appreciative, saying there's no real heroes left. And then the challenge comes down. Fire makes a play for Beetle a couple of times. Don't really know why. That's new. And it was kind of interesting to see where they were at. And then the challenge comes down. And they have to fight characters from the Kingdom Come universe. So you've got Shazam, Wonder Woman, Obsidian back there with the hat, Nightstar, Jade, Huntress, and their Blue Beetle, and Creeper. And so they're going to fight, but they don't want to fight, but they're going to fight. And then it picks up the same way in the next issue. They're going to fight, but they don't want to fight, but they're going to fight. And, yep, same creative. Looks like they got some help on the inking from Joe Rubinstein and Brett Blevins. But otherwise, the same creative team. And so, yeah, you know, they're basically going to fight, and they do fight, but you don't get to see the fight because they decide to put the spotlight on Blue Beetle. You see a little bit of the fight, but not really who wins. Neither one of the Blue Beetles want to fight, so they go off on their own for reasons that elude me. I guess they were going to go look for the bad guy and just leave their teammates to fight each other. It just doesn't make much sense. And then they find some robots to fight. And the Kingdom Come, Blue Beetle gets trapped. Ted Cord saves him. And they joke around a little bit with each other. So they kind of make Blue Beetle back into a joke again. And then they go back, and the Kingdom team has won. But the earthquake happened while the Blue Beetles were around. That's how the one Blue Beetle got trapped. And so, you know, nobody's eliminated because when the earthquake happens, that's when the bad guy Talos was defeated or lost his powers or whatever happened. I don't remember exactly anymore. But anyway, it's Blue Beetle's birthday. Nobody remembers. But then he goes into his room and all this is going on, and it's because Booster popped in, time traveling, to wish him a happy birthday. So he left a bunch of messages and stuff for him. So that was the end. Kind of cool. It was okay. Nothing great, but it was an interesting read. Then we have The Magnetic Men featuring Magneto, #1. It's a one-shot, so there's only a #1. From the Amalgam universe, when DC and Marvel combined, and they basically did mashups of their characters. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. So that's one of these issues. Story-wise, it was a little hard to follow. The fun for me with these issues is trying to figure out which characters they're mashing together. Like, when I first saw this guy, I immediately thought of Ambush Bug, but it's actually Mastermind from Marvel and Mr. Mind the Worm from DC Comics. So that was pretty interesting. Interesting mashup. And then the Metal Men are actually kind of based on the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants with the Toad-like guy, and then of course the Mastermind mashup and stuff, working with Magneto, who I'm not sure who Magneto was a mashup of. Didn't really make that too clear. For some reason, they decided to give the Metal Men, or the Magnetic Men, human identities, which last for 2 seconds. And then they're chased as being evil. And then this sinister society shows up, which are apparently probably mashups of other characters who I didn't even try to figure out. They weren't around long enough to know who they were supposed to be. Nice art. As you can see, there's a great dinosaur there. And we should look at the credits. Find them. Tom Pear was the writer, Barry Kitson was the pencils, and Dan Panosian was the inker. And honestly, by about here, I stopped reading it, and I just started looking at the art. It was hard for me to follow, and it didn't really matter anyway, because it's just a one-shot, and the art is really the attraction here, so don't really know for sure what happened. There is a nice column here that shows the other books in the series from the DC Marvel mashups. So I remember reading most of the first series of mashups that they did. I think this is from the second series. And the first series had some pretty good issues. I really enjoyed a lot of those. But honestly, Magneto and the Metal Men have never held that much interest for me, either one of them. So it was interesting, but that's about it for me. I'm sure there's people out there that love it. And then we have Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, number 509 from 1984. This is the second to last issue from Western Publishing. I studied this cover gag for a little bit because I didn't really understand the gag. I guess it's just the fact that the alarm clocks are going off and they're still in bed. That's all I can get out of it. So I got a Super Goof ad. He's on the right track in Whitman Comics. And then this first story was a little interesting. It's got a S code on it, which means it was from the studio program, which means it was actually created by Disney Studios. And most of those stories first were printed overseas, where they would basically sell the stories to other publishers around the world. And so this was, from the research I did, this story was actually created a couple years earlier before it saw print here in the United States. So Donald is eating his breakfast cereal, Fruity Tooties, and gets an entry blank for a contest. So he wants to enter the contest, but he doesn't have paper to write his essay. And he keeps getting interrupted by this salesman, and then by the storekeeper tries to find out about the contest, and the Gladstone Gander and Feathery Duck get in the way, and then Daisy Duck shows up, and then Huey, Dewey, and Louie show up, and everybody's stopping him from entering the contest. So he ends up never entering the contest. And of course, Gladstone wins because he wins all the contests. He does save this dog, or at least the lady thinks he saved the dog. So she's going to give him a $100 reward. So he did come out ahead in this story a little bit. Gladstone wins the prize, but he's not happy because the prize was actually 10 boxes of the cereal. So he's trying to share them with Donald, who doesn't want them. And that was the end. Little Bad Wolf tries to be the voice of his dad's conscience and trick his dad into being better instead of a bad guy. Doesn't quite work out the way he wanted. Winnie the Pooh adopts a lost bird and tries to teach it to fly, but it turns out to be a roadrunner. And then the Mickey Mouse story at the end. Mickey's working for the Racket Squad in his town. And so him and Goofy go undercover to get, and this guy tries to swindle him. He's the guy that they're after. He tries to swindle them by convincing them that he's invented a time machine. And it's kind of like a Mission Impossible type time machine. If you've ever seen the TV show, they'll use movie effects and things like that to make people think things are happening that aren't really happening. And so that's kind of the basis of this guy's con. And Mickey figures it out, and they capture him, and that's the end of the story. So kind of a fun little issue. All new stories in it, even though it was close to the end of their publishing run. And this was a 60-cent cover. I saw on Grand Comics Database when I was looking it up that this one had it actually has a 75-cent variant cover, so that's interesting. But anyway, lastly, we're going to look at the Extraordinary X-Men #1 from 2016. And kind of a cool cover. You know, they kind of put the team together in this issue, which it kind of reveals everybody on the front, so no surprises there. There's the creative team. Jeff Lemire is the writer. Humberto Ramos is the penciler. Victor Olazaba is the inker, I guess. And hopefully I didn't murder those names like I usually do. So Storm's not happy. Everything's going to hell. And she's trying to lead the X-Men. And I wasn't sure what was going on. It takes place without much of an explanation. They had this whole page they could have put some kind of an explanation on, and they didn't. But this takes place in the time when the Inhumans Terrigen Mist was roaming around the world and killing mutants and making them sterile, so there won't be any more new mutants. And so she's basically in the study. She's trying to lead the X-Men school, and she's talking to Professor X, who is either a ghost or dead or something. I don't know. She's the only one who's seeing that. And so they decide they have to do something. Magic is trying to rescue a girl, a mutant in another country, and the army is attacking, and so she barely gets them out of there, so they decide things have to change. So Storm decides they're going to put a team together, which you'd think they would already have about 10 teams running around, but anyway, that's the way it goes, you know. So her and Iceman approach Jean Grey, who is the younger Jean Grey, who came back in time when they all came back in time. Or went forward in time, I guess, actually. It's confusing. And she says no. She doesn't want to be an X-Man anymore. She just wants to live a normal life. And Magic goes to recruit her brother, Colossus, who is farming in Russia. And then this guy, this is Ares, and he's battling Nightcrawler, I guess, is what he's doing. So they're trying to recruit Nightcrawler, but he actually gets captured or something. And then, even though Jean Grey says no, she tells them that she senses Wolverine somewhere who is supposed to be dead or whatever. So they go after him and find him, and it turns to be the character Old Man Logan. Now, I know there's Logan and then there's Old Man Logan, and I don't know the difference. I don't know if Old Man Logan is like a time displaced version or what the deal is. I haven't seen anything to tell me what the difference is. So it ends there, to be continued. I guess that was supposed to be the great big reveal, but they blew it because he's on the cover. And that was those 4 issues. So favorite is actually, I'm gonna go with probably Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, to tell you the truth. Even though it's childlike and pretty simple stories in it, it was the most entertaining of them, because the other ones just didn't make a whole lot of sense. The Magneto one I stopped reading halfway through. Convergence was okay, but it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, Blue Beetle's leading the team. Why is Blue Beetle leading the team? He's never been that kind of character. And then Extraordinary X-Men, it was okay, but it didn't fill you in good enough on what was going on. And then what was supposed to be surprises, they gave away on the cover. So I don't know. I don't know why they do that. They'll spend a whole issue setting up something like that that's supposed to be a big reveal, and then they blow it by giving it away on the cover. I mean, it's crazy. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be, part 3 of the Comics Den books that I got for 35 cents. So check those out tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. We drop a new video every day at noon. Have a good one.